Welcome to Coagulation Cascade, where we make a strong fibrin clot. In this video, we will focus on the 10,000-foot overview. We'll clarify the following take-home points. The key to a strong fibrin clot is to generate thrombin. Once generated, thrombin acts in a positive feedback loop to amplify itself. Once enough thrombin is generated, it acts in a negative feedback loop to activate antithrombotic mechanisms and stop clotting. Now we'll focus on the fact that to get fibrin, you need thrombin. So let's start with fibrinogen. Through the action of thrombin, you cleave fibrinogen to get a fibrin monomer. Fibrin monomers combine to form a fibrin strand. Fibrin strands combine to form a fibrin polymer. Fibrin polymers are acted upon by activated factor 13, which leads to cross-linked fibrin. Recognize that all of this is possible because of thrombin. Without thrombin, there is no fibrin clot. So let's take a step back. In order to generate thrombin, you first need the precursor zymogen, prothrombin. And in order to get a lot of thrombin, you need to convert a lot of prothrombin. Therefore, in order to create a fibrin clot, your goal is thrombin generation. Thrombin generation leads us to fibrin clot formation. Therefore, in the next few minutes, you will learn that the clotting cascade is the process by which we make a little bit of thrombin, and by generating a little bit of thrombin, thrombin acts in a positive feedback loop to generate a lot of thrombin. However, by generating a lot of thrombin, the excess thrombin activates a negative feedback loop such that you stop generating thrombin until you have none. And thus, the clotting cascade terminates. To this end, we are going to take a look at three major processes. The first is clot initiation, followed by clot propagation, which leads to clot termination. Let's focus now on clot initiation. In order to initiate clot formation, you need to first activate the extrinsic pathway. Activating the extrinsic pathway allows you to generate thrombin in small amounts. This ends the process of initiation and leads to the next step of propagation. Clot propagation occurs when you activate the intrinsic pathway. By activating the intrinsic pathway, you generate thrombin in significant amounts. What you'll discover is that when you activate the extrinsic pathway, you also activate the intrinsic pathway. Furthermore, generating thrombin in small amounts also leads to activating the intrinsic pathway. And once you generate thrombin in significant amounts, it also acts as a feedback mechanism to activate the intrinsic pathway. This further generates thrombin in significant amounts. The excess thrombin generated leads us to the next step, which is clot termination. In the step of clot termination, you activate antithrombotic mechanisms, and they lead you to stop thrombin generation. Remember that we said earlier that what contributes to stopping thrombin generation is thrombin excess. So thrombin excess acts as a positive feedback loop to activate antithrombotic mechanisms that stop thrombin generation. Now that we understand the three major steps of initiation, propagation, and termination, in the next three videos, we will take a deep dive into step 1, clot initiation, and then on to step 2, clot propagation, and finally step 3, termination. In summary, we have learned that in order to make a strong fibrin clot, you need to generate thrombin. We've also learned that generating a little bit of thrombin acts in a positive feedback loop to amplify thrombin generation. And finally, by generating excess thrombin, thrombin acts in a negative feedback loop to activate antithrombotic mechanisms that stop the clotting cascade. This video has been focused on the coagulation cascade, the 10,000-foot overview.